Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So again, getting more wisdom from Srila Prabhupada's books, we are gathered again today. Please join us for Jai Radha Mata prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So again, please join us for Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavti Nashtake. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we are going to discuss the qualities of a sadhu, and this of a genuine sadhu, because there are various kind of sadhus we will be talking about today, and this is coming directly, the wisdom is coming directly from Srimadbhagavatam, the literary incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, and in the purport of various verses where Srila Prabhupada helps us recognize who is a genuine sadhu, what are the qualities of a genuine sadhu. And these qualities are very nicely described in Canto 3, Chapter 25, verse 21 onwards. 12 onwards. Hare Krishna. So, please join us in the recitation of the verse. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, verse 21. Hare Krishna Devi, have you shared the link for others to follow?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So please join us in the recitation of this verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, verse 21. Titikshava karunika surhada sarvadehinam ajata shatravaha shantaha sadhuva sadhubhushanaha Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, and he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. So right there, the top 6 characteristics have been identified. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So of course we know that Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee of the Lordship, and we can learn a lot of these qualities directly from his example, how tolerant he was. We have heard of so many stories when he came in a very humble state. He came to America and he was made to stay, there was a family who sponsored him. So he was staying with this family where he had to put the prasad that would be, after offering to the deities, he had to put the prasad in the same refrigerator where there was meat and other abominable things were placed. Yet he was very tolerant, and of course he was very merciful. So when Srila Prabhupada, he was lecturing during the early days of Krishna consciousness movement in America, he would often tell his listeners, the audience, people who would come to listen to his class, he would simply say, I have come to your country not to take anything, but simply to give. And those who were honest and sincere were able to sense Srila Prabhupada's unalloyed desire to bestow upon them the highest form of mercy. And directed by Krishna within their hearts, they voluntarily placed themselves under Srila Prabhupada's guidance and protection. So again, he was very merciful. He was also very respectful. So again, friendly to all living entities. There is a beautiful incident when he was visiting New York Temple in 1976. As he was, strolling gracefully down the center aisle, all the devotees, as was the trend, means they would immediately pay down obeisances. So they would bow down and pay obeisances, and there was a new devotee. He just extended, because that's where he was standing, he just paid obeisance, and he was extending into the aisle. So the devotee next to him, eased him backwards so that he does not obstruct the path on which Srila Prabhupada was walking. And now Srila Prabhupada, when he reached that boy, he stopped and placed his hand on his head and looked at him with affection, as if to make sure that his feelings had not been hurt by someone else asking him to retreat back. So this is a friendly attitude, a respectful attitude, looking everyone as, servant of Krishna, looking everyone as a living entity who is to give pleasure. The purpose is to give pleasure to Krishna. So he was very sensitive to those matters. And so in this instance, in all his personal dealings, not just this, Srila Prabhupada treated everyone he met with utmost respect, thus softening their hearts and rekindling their spiritual sentiments. And one of the simplest way he was constantly giving mercy while giving respect was telling us to chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And another example that comes to mind is how was he friendly. So once in July of 1966, when Srila Prabhupada was lecturing at the 26th 2nd Avenue in New York City, there was an old homeless person who was a drunkard, and he didn't seem to be sober. He was not able to take steps forward, properly. So he staggered into the storefront, put 2 rolls of toilet tissue in the bathroom, set some paper towels atop the sink, and turned and staggered out. And seeing this, Srila Prabhupada, he was completely undisturbed by the man's odd behavior, but he appreciated the spark of devotion he showed. It was shining through, and Srila Prabhupada, he just said, "Just see, he's not in order." But he thought that here is something, let me give some service, let me make an offering. So he came into the storefront, he placed some toilet tissue rolls in the bathroom, and he staggered out. So here, Srila Prabhupada nicely revealing that the devotion of this person, even though he is not in proper order, even though he is drunk, it is shining through, and this is automatic. The bhakti, the devotion in our heart, devotion, it's like it's just a kindling spark that needs to be fanned. So it comes automatically. It's not something that someone is going to give us. So it's there. It just needs to be fanned, and the spark will blaze into beautiful fire in service of Lord Shri Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is natural. This is not something impractical or bookish or someone's imagination, that by engaging in devotional service you attain complete peace, complete bliss, and you achieve the goal of your life. It is a practical process and the easiest process. Yet at the same time, easiest doesn't mean that it will take long. It is the best process. Srila Prabhupada, he compares devotional service with other Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Means again, all these various kind of yoga. Yoga means to connect with the Lord. So that connection with the Lord, if Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga and others are like, you're trying to go into a building to the top floor and you're taking steps, escalators, walkways. There are different ways people are using, maybe ladders. But devotional service is the easiest, as easy as getting into the elevator and pressing the top button and directly you reach the top floor. Minimum effort and maximum benefit. So such is the simple process. Now this is where we are seeing some of the amazing qualities, the symptoms of a sadhu. What are the 6 symptoms again? If you remember, please write in the comment box. First, of course, he is very tolerant, merciful, friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, and he abides by the scriptures. So he aligns with Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. That's Sadhava. Now, one of his peaceful aspect comes to mind is when he had gone to Japan and there was a program being arranged, but it was cold night, and then we know that in Japan the walls are literally like paper walls, right, with sticks holding them. And so at night it was very cold, and Srila Prabhupada was trying to do the translation, Srimadbhagavatam translation. He would get up early at 2:30 a.m. So after going to sleep around midnight, he would get up early to start doing the translation. He was hardly sleeping, but it was so cold, and the landlord who had provided this facility for Srila Prabhupada to stay, he had also provided a heater, but this heater was sending out so much smoke that you can't even breathe in the room. So Srila Prabhupada, asked his secretary, and his secretary went to the landlord, and finally the landlord gave his own heater. And now the another thing that happened is, now that room is getting warmed up, but there was an abominable smell coming from the gutter area. And Srila Prabhupada was concerned, how would people come and sit in the class for the gathering as he is going to address the audience next day. So when this was identified to the landlord, he was a pious man, the Japanese man, the landlord, and he came and he himself started cleaning the gutter area because he couldn't find the labor. Late at night, it's very difficult at times. And so he was getting dirty, and his wife was, the landlady, his wife was shouting at him, but he was like, trying to respond to her, and he did the cleaning. It was all very nicely arranged, right? So next day, Srila Prabhupada thanked, this is very nice for, he was doing some service knowingly, unknowingly in Lord Krishna's, for Lord Krishna's pleasure and for the pleasure of the devotees. So next day when Srila Prabhupada sat down, on the stage and he was starting the class, at that time there was good gathering, and suddenly the landlady, wife of that landlord, she came, the Japanese lady, and she started shouting something very loudly in front of everyone. And Srila Prabhupada was very peaceful. He was looking at her, trying to understand what her concern is, but she was speaking Japanese, and nobody in the gathering seemed to be able to relate to what she is trying to say. There was a easier way of understanding that yes, she was upset that her husband had to go and clean up the gutter and all that thing, and then there was a lot of inconvenience for him, and she was upset about that. So she was shouting very loudly, disturbing the whole gathering. And after, she was, done with shouting and speaking. At that time, Srila Prabhupada, very peaceful, calm manner, he came close to the mic and he said, "Japanese landlady." And then suddenly everyone bursted into laughs, and the whole environment eased down. And everyone just smiled, and the landlady, she walked away. And suddenly Srila Prabhupada turned that very tense, very quarrelsome, very disturbing environment into again a very pleasing environment like that of Vrindavan. Because he was carrying Vrindavan with him, so he would always be in Vrindavan. He doesn't have to step out of Vrindavan. So similarly, he was bringing Vrindavan to everyone, and even to the hearts of distant people, even in Japan and all around the world. So Srila Prabhupada, in a very peaceful, loving manner. So one of the important things that Srila Prabhupada said is that a sadhu has to be recognized by the ear, not by the eyes. Now, what does that mean? That when a sadhu speaks, the subject matter he speaks will reveal to us if he is a sadhu or not. The subject matter has to be on Krishna consciousness. The subject matter has to be on devotional service. Subject matter has to be in connecting the living entities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So that is an important aspect. That when a sadhu speaks, he speaks about Krishna, he speaks about devotees, he glorifies the Lord, he glorifies the devotees, and he encourages everyone to follow their examples, the examples of acharyas. Anushilanam. Now, when you follow the examples, there are two ways to follow: Anukaran and Anusharan. Of course, we want to do Anusharan, not imitate someone, but actually take to our heart the instructions given by the acharyas. So, please, in the comment line, if you have a moment, tell us how do you see what are the qualities of a sadhu, right? And what are kinds of sadhu? Who do you think is a sadhu? Is someone wearing sannyasi dress? Is that a sadhu? Is someone having a big beard? Is that a sadhu? If someone having a big, what do you say, lot of shawls and a lot of clothes around them, is that a sadhu? If someone who's speaking very eloquently, is that a sadhu? So again, in this current times, we have so many varieties available. There is a chemical sadhu. They show some chemical reaction. They make the people wonder, wow, this is amazing. And then there is magician sadhus, right? We see they just move their hands up in the air and then they bring up some objects. Lalima, one of the siddhi, if they have, otherwise it's just swift of hand. And the astrologer sadhus, are they really the genuine sadhu? Or smoker sadhus? If you go to Vrindavan, even in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada says that some of these sadhus are, smoking ganjas and other kind of abominable things. And that is not something, associated with a sadhu. And there are beggar sadhus and there are mystic sadhus. Are they genuine sadhus? No, they are not. There are even worker sadhus. So again, they work and they say that, you should work like us. And this is what the karma yoga is. While in reality, they are very much attached to the fruits of their labor. And then there is nurse sadhu. So again, they just take care of people and nurse them, taking care of the outside body, but not really taking care of the soul within the body. So there are physician sadhus also there. Now, not just this, there are even politician sadhus. Sometimes the politicians, they want to, take shelter of a sadhu who would use the black magic and other powers, other kind of siddhis, so as to keep them stable in their position, so as to keep them in power. So those politicians, sadhus, and there are so many other kind of sadhus we see in current times. And they wear very strange dresses just to stand out different from everyone else. So these are some of the ways we should think about who is a real sadhu. Now, let's look at Srimadbhagavatam and so many examples from our Shastras. What are some of the examples of sadhus? We know that Yudhishthira Maharaj was known as Ajat-Shatru. So if you can think of some of the personalities who were sadhus, please write in the comments. Who are some of the sadhus we know of? Right? Srila Prabhupada, he was a sadhu. Srila. And so many sannyasis who are constantly engaged in bringing everyone close to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are sadhus. Janak Maharaj, yes, he was like father to his praja. Praja has two meanings. One is the ones who are dependent, so the family members who are dependent on you, and the second is the citizens. Whoever is born within the domain of your ruling is called praja. So it doesn't just include human beings, it includes plants, trees, animals, aquatics, everyone, birds. So again, Janak Maharaj was like a father. Janak means father. So he was like a father and he was a sadhu. And many of the kings in this lineage, they were all known by the name Janak. They were sadhus. We know of Prahlad Maharaj, who was sadhu. Yes, even though his father was getting upset at him, he was always peaceful. He was always trying to preach his father to not be enslaved by the mind, but to take to Krishna consciousness, to take to devotional service, because that is the true meaning of this life. So we see so many personalities. Pandavas, they were sadhus, so they were Kshatriyas, yet they were sadhus. So we see that among Kshatriyas, they were great sadhus. Bhishma Pitamaha, yes, he was a sadhu. He had taken the vow and he was always saying things that were pleasing to hear, and he was always abiding by the scriptures when carrying out his activities, and he was a great devotee. He is one of the Mahajanas. And if you can think of some other personalities who were sadhu, so here, please share in the comment line. Yes, Devashi Narad, we know, once he gets the spiritual body, he is sadhu. But when he was even the son of a maidservant, a Shudra, and then he was able to see the Lord within his heart after his mother had passed away, and he was going through various towns and villages. And following the instructions of the Vedantist, he was able to see the Lord, and that was the Lord's mercy, the causeless mercy, to encourage him on this devotional path. And so his limbs had already spiritualized, and he was a sadhu even in the body of a small Shudra boy. So it doesn't means again, Chatu Varnam, they are related to the modes of material nature, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So it doesn't matter which Varna you are in, you can be a sadhu. Prahlad Maharaj, in his example to Narasimhadev, Lord Narasimhadev, he says that a Brahman cannot even sometimes deliver himself if he is not a devotee, but even a dog eater, a Chandal, who's not even in the four Varnas, if he is a devotee, he can deliver all his family members. So again, it is what is in your heart that matters, what is at the core. And so we can learn some important lessons, not from the outer dress, not by the varnas, not by the positions, but a sadhu is recognized by their behavior, by their speech, by their activities. Activities can be performed by mind, body, and words. And then on top of that, we also have to perform sacrifice, austerity, and charity. So what kind of charity and why they are performing that charity, that is essence has to be known for us to understand who is really a sadhu. And so, how can we be a sadhu? Now, to be peaceful, one of the very important aspects in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 5, the last verse is where Lord Krishna reveals to Arjuna, how can one be peaceful? Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram suruhidam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is giving this peace formula. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. So who is the beneficiary of all sacrifices? Lord Shri Krishna. Sometimes people think that, oh, I'm working so hard and I'm making all these sacrifices for my family. Such a person can never be peaceful, because his motive, his initial purpose, the very seed of his action is on the bodily platform. He's thinking, I and mine, I am this body and these are all my relatives. And these actually become the cause of his misery. So he can never be peaceful. He can only be peaceful when he performs all sacrifices for the Lordship. So Lord Krishna is the beneficiary. And the best sacrifice to perform is the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Sankirtan Yajna, congregational chanting of the holy name. We all come together and we chant. We glorify the Lord. Even reading a verse of Srimadbhagavatam is glorification of the Lord. So again, a person becomes peaceful by understanding that the beneficiary of all sacrifices is Lord Shri Krishna. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the proprietor of all that can be, all material as well as spiritual universes. And Surhidam Sarvabhutama, he is the best friend of every living entity. He is the benefactor of every living entity. He is the well-wisher of every living entity. So he is all good. Sometimes people, when they feel sad, because it's not because that Lord is doing something that is wrong, it is their expectation and the events in life, they seems to be in two different directions. And that's why people sometimes become distressed and they become sad. In reality, everything that happens in our life, provided we are giving our very best effort to please Lord Shri Krishna. So this is an important piece. Any effort, if it's not carried out to please Lord Shri Krishna, then of course right there the faults have reactions to it. And every action has some faults. And then there is, in reaction, we ultimately get miseries, because even though it's said that, yes, pious activities, we have good reactions, and then impious activities, sinful actions have sinful reactions, and person has to suffer. But in reality, in this material world, what is happiness? It's flickering. It's like spark in the dark. While in devotional service, it is full sun at its best. So that is the true meaning. When it comes to engaging in devotional service, then even though we perform it faultily, it is being taken care of, because Lord Krishna says, Sarvadhamma Pratyaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vaja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mukshishashmi Mashacha. He will deliver us from all our sinful reactions. Of course, if he is delivering us from our sinful reactions, he will also deliver us from our pious reactions. So today we are understanding these qualities of a sadhu. And then of course we also know that Vaishnava qualities, there are 26 of them. And these 6 qualities are included in those 26 qualities. So again, a sadhu has to be a Vaishnava, because only then he can be peaceful, the very first quality. And as is described here, Titikshva Karunika. So sadhu is Titikshva, tolerant, Karunika, merciful, Surhida Sarvadehinam, and he is friendly to all living entities, Aja Shatravaha, and he has no enemies. Now again, the example of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj never considered anyone as his enemy. Yes, Duryodhan was always envious of him and considered Yudhishthira Maharaj as his enemy, but Yudhishthira Maharaj did not know even Duryodhan as his enemy. He always considered Duryodhan as his dear cousin, and he was very friendly from his perspective. So, and he was Shanta, he was always peaceful, and Sadhva, one who is abiding by Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. And these are the ornaments of a Sadhu. So these 6 ornaments of a Sadhu. Sadhu Bhushanaha also is translated by Srila Prabhupada in his lectures. So wisdom in Srila Prabhupada's books helps us to develop such qualities as our heart and mind becomes pure. when we engage in devotional service. And to engage in devotional service, we call out to the Lord in a prayerful mood, keeping our palms together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.